Hello everybody, my name is Uber Jason. Happy Halloween! Excuse the fact that we're sitting here in my room instead of out in the woods like this video started. My plan was to go film this out in the woods. It's been raining and I gotta get this video up by Halloween, so I just gotta fucking record this. Excuse the location. For the last video of this busy ass month of October, I've decided to do a Friday the 13th tier list because Friday the 13th is my favorite horror series that there is. Don't get me wrong, I have favorite horror movies that go way above Friday the 13th, like John Carpenter's The Thing is my #1, but we'll get to that. But this is my favorite franchise, and definitely my favorite slasher villain, so I wanted to rank these movies. They all have some sort of special place in my heart, whether it be positive or negative. Before I begin, I want to talk about the tiers I have. S tier is top. You don't get better in S tier. There's a few movies up there that they are the top tier. A tier is very good, very watchable, but just there's more things wrong with it than I would like for an S tier movie, so it knocks it down a step, so it's A tier. B tier is like watchable but skippable at the same time. You know, it doesn't really matter if you watch these movies, but if you like Friday the 13th, you'll probably get some sort of enjoyment out of them. C tier is kind of boring, kind of not worth watching, but if you really enjoy Friday the 13th, there's something to them that you'll enjoy, at least something. And D tier, which is my bottom tier, is just fucking awful, not worth watching. But no Friday the 13th movie is just unredeemable entirely. They've all got at least 1 or 2 parts that are worth watching. So without further ado, let's get to the first movie, Friday the 13th. Also, I'm gonna be making this as quick as possible, so not much dilly-dallying on each movie. The original Friday the 13th is alright. It doesn't have Jason, which is a downside. It does have Pamela Voorhees, but only in like the very end, which is a plus. I do love Pamela Voorhees. It's fucking great seeing her in the last little bit of the movie.
Kill her, mommy.
We've got Tom Savini on gore, which is a huge plus. Tom Savini is the fucking man. You want to see why he's the man? Just look at Kevin Bacon's death in this movie. It's fucking brutal. This movie is a classic. It started the whole franchise, so I gotta give it some props for sure. But it being the first in the franchise, this movie is slow as shit. It is fucking grueling to watch, especially if you already know what these movies are. While we got Tom Savini, some of these kills still fucking suck, especially some like Steve Christie. His death is fucking terrible. The 2 deaths in the beginning are fucking boring, the opening kills. And you might be able to make up for that by having characters that you care about. No one gives a shit about any of the characters in this movie. The only reason you remember Kevin Bacon is in this movie is A, because it's Kevin Bacon, but B, because he's got a sick-ass death scene. Alice as the final girl is great, and Pamela Voorhees, like I already said, is great, but I can barely name any other fucking characters from this movie. And none of their deaths make an impact at all. It's really a fucking boring movie, especially if you're looking for Jason. This is not your movie. And the last knock I have against this movie is they killed someone's pet snake, man. That's fucked up. That's fucked up. I put Friday the 13th at C tier. It's alright, but there's a lot better. Friday the 13th, part 2. This is when we get Jason. We get the sackhead hillbilly Jason in this one, and it's fucking great. I do love the makeup effects for hillbilly Jason, and the sackhead Jason is kind of funny, not very scary, and not the hockey mask Jason, but it's unique. I like sackhead Jason. This movie is a lot faster paced and actually a good amount scarier than the first movie. Jason fucking runs in this movie, which doesn't happen often, especially later in the series. But seeing Jason run towards that shack is fucking horrifying. The characters in this movie are a lot more memorable and a lot better. We got Mark, the wheelchair guy, who has one of my favorite deaths. We got his girlfriend Vicky. Both of them are just fucking great to watch on screen. We got Ted, who's a fucking goofball and survives the movie, which is awesome. And then you got the man Paul Holt, Ginny's boyfriend. Paul Holt's great. Speaking of Ginny, that is our final girl for this movie, and she does a fucking great job being the final girl. Ginny is one of the best final girls that there is in the entire franchise. And like I already said, Mark's death, when he gets hacked in the front and rolls down all those fucking stairs in his wheelchair, Oh my god, that's one of my favorite deaths in the fucking series. But now we're going to talk about a little bit of the negatives of this movie. Tom Savini did not return to do makeup effects for this movie, which kind of hurts it. Not to mention, even if Tom Savini was there, the MPAA cut down the gore a little bit. This is when that started, was in Friday Part 2. The MPAA did not like it. I also really fucking hate the scene with Alice in the beginning. It's way too slow, nothing happens, and then they killed off the main character of the first movie for no reason. I feel like if you take that scene out of the movie, it would be a better movie. Watching Alice die just sucks, you know? And especially since there's absolutely no point to it. No, it doesn't matter that she dies in the beginning. And the last thing I have to say about this movie is, it's basically the same movie as the first one. It's horny teens being killed. It's the same movie as the first one, except this time with Jason, it's just a little bit better. With that being said, I'm putting Part 2 at B tier. I love Part 2, but in comparison with the rest of the series, it's very average. Still a great movie, but B tier. Next in line, we got Part 3, 3D. Ooh. This is where Jason gets his mask. The fact that this movie was shot with 3D in mind is a plus and a minus for this movie, because the 3D can either be distracting and annoying, or it can be really fucking funny. Either way, even when it's good, it's not good for the reasons the movie thought it would be good. With the head being crushed and looking fucking terrible, it makes me laugh every time, but it's still good. But it definitely does not look good. Higgins Haven is probably my favorite location in any of the Friday movies. It's fucking awesome. With the spiral staircase and the huge mansion, it's such a shame that that bitch burnt down. Some fucking rowdy fans went up there and started a fire and burnt the fucking place to the ground. I hate people. But yeah, the Higgins Haven cabin is amazing. You got even better characters than in Part 2 with Shelley, who is kind of a whiny prick, but I still like him. Not to mention he's the person that brought Jason his mask, so you gotta have some love for him. You got the bikers who are great. You got Andy, you got Rick, that's the guy who got his head crushed. You got the stoner characters, which are fun to watch. And then you got the final girl, Chris, who is pretty fucking awesome. I'm a big fan of Andy's death in this movie, when he's doing the handstand and he gets fucking macheted right to the dick, and then it shows his body later on. Oh my god, that is up there for one of the best deaths. I love that. It's so sudden, and I love how when he's doing the handstand around the corner, Jason's just kind of standing there and you see him before the kill actually happens. And at the end of this movie, Jason takes a fucking beating all the way leading up until he finally gets that axe in the head. He's getting the shit kicked out of him. From what I've heard, the working conditions on Friday the 13th Part 3 weren't the best, and it's not a good thing. That obviously hurts the ranking a little bit, the fact that it was an unsafe and not fun working environment for the people involved. And the only other knock I have against this movie is that, again, it is the same movie, just a little bit better. And this time, you got Jason's hockey mask and everything. It's the same movie as Part 1 and 2, though. It's just a little bit better. With that being said, I put Part 3 at A. A tier movie. It's great. It's solid. Now, we come to my personal favorite Friday the 13th movie that exists. That being Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. Oh my fucking god, I love this movie. I have a whole list written down here, and I did this for every single movie, where one side is negatives, one side is positives. There is nothing but positives for this movie. There's only one negative, and it's just the negligent set. The same thing that happened with Part 3. They gave the chick who got killed on the raft hypothermia because they wouldn't let her out of the freezing cold water, which is fucked up. I'm gonna go ahead and get that out of the way so I can talk about the positives, because there's a lot of them. Let's talk about the characters. Tommy Jarvis, played by Corey Feldman, is amazing. Not to mention this is the start of the Tommy Jarvis trilogy. The character's amazing, but Corey Feldman is also amazing playing the character. We got Crispin Glover as Jimmy, who, oh my fucking god, I love his character. And I love the running joke of him being a dead fuck. It makes me laugh every time, even though it's stupid.
It says you're a dead fuck. What? A dead fuck?
You got Ted, who is Jimmy's friend, who calls him a dead fuck. You got the twins, Tina and Tina and Tammy, maybe? Some shit like that. I just call them the twins because that's how I remember them best. Those are my favorites of like the teens. And then we get to the Jarvis family, who I love all of them. The mom is great, even though she has a really shitty death scene. Tommy's sister is amazing, especially towards the second half of the movie. And you get Rob, who just kind of joins in on the fun because he's looking for his sister who got speared in Part 2. And then you got Ted White as Jason, who Ted White just seems like the most pleasant person, you know? Plus, he does a great job playing Jason. Tom Savini returns in this movie and gives us some of the best gore in the series. We'll start with my favorite thing, which is Jason's death, him sliding down on that machete and twitching and his hand getting cut open, and oh, it's so good. It's so good. This movie is one of the only movies that I actually consider scary in the Friday the 13th series, because once you get past like part 4, it gets into goofy territory and it never really regains its scary value, you know? And 1 through 3 are so unprofessionally made that it's hard to get scared by them. But part 4 I feel like is a good balance of professionally made to an extent and also not too far into the series where it goes into goofy territory. Jason is a fucking threat in this movie and I love it. I fucking love Crispin Glover's death scene. The whole
Ted! Hey, Ted, where the hell's the corkscrew?
and then he gets the corkscrew. Oh my goodness. I love Rob's death, even though it goes into goofy a little bit, but he's killing me! He's killing me! Oh my god. It makes me laugh, but at the same time, it's like, that's kind of terrifying. Like, he knows that he's being killed, and he's shouting that he's being killed as he's being killed, and then he gets killed, and then he's dead. And wow, those are his last words. And then, of course, I love the Tommy Jarvis, remember me, Jason? And the whole hypnotic trip they put on Jason. I fucking love part 4. It's easily my favorite Friday the 13th, like, easily. This was the first Friday the 13th movie I saw as a kid, by the way, as well. So this is what got me into Jason. So that may have a little bit of an effect on my rankings, but you know, I'm not wrong. It's a great fucking movie, and that's why it's S tier. Obviously, I said it was my favorite. It's gonna go in the S tier. Next up, part 5, Roy Burns. Yikes. We'll start with the positives. Tommy Jarvis is back, and while he's not the best version of Tommy Jarvis, it's still good to have Tommy J back, you know? Tommy Jarvis is great, even if he's a quiet, brooding, fucking sociopath in this movie, you know. It's fun to watch him beat the shit out of people. Goddamn, him suplexing that dude through a table, and then him fucking bending that dude back. Oh, dude. But while we got Tommy Jarvis on one end, we got Roy Burns on the other end. Roy Burns is not a good Jason. Mostly because he's not Jason, but also because you barely see him in the movie. It's a shitty twist at the end when it turns out to be Roy Burns, and his motivation doesn't make sense in the first place, because it's the fat dude with the chocolate who dies in the beginning as his son or something, but his son never knew him, and he didn't ever kill the guy who killed his son. Roy Burns is a fucking joke, dude. Talk about another negative, the director on this movie didn't give a shit about anything but tits. He barely even cared about the gore, as long as he got to put tits in the movie. Like, Friday the 13th Part 4, all they talk about is sex the entire movie, basically. But Friday the 13th Part 5 is just a fucking porno, and it's not... But in the director's lack of care towards anything else except for tits in the movie, there was a lot of room for improv from a lot of the characters, and it actually worked out. You got the two guys in the car who are fucking hilarious.
Fucked up again, it ain't starting. I'm gonna kick your ass, kick your ass.
I fucking love that. You got the old lady who's like, I got a bomb, and is cussing all out through the movie. It's fucking hilarious.
About time, you fuckwad.
Most of these characters are fucking hilarious. Like, I love Damon when he goes,
Some damn enchiladas.
funny as shit. I swear to God, this is one of the funniest Friday the 13th movies, just because of all the improv. But I give none of that credit to the director, because fuck that guy. Obviously, Tom Savini didn't return for this one, because he killed Jason in part 4 and didn't want him to come back. That's the only reason he agreed to do part 4 in the first place. The gore in this one wasn't great to start with, and then the MPAA was like, oh, fuck this movie, and cut a lot of the stuff that already wasn't that good out. So, unfortunately, the best kill from this movie is probably the one where he wraps the belt around the tree around dude's head and twists it. And that's not even a great kill, but it's the best of the movie for sure. Overall, this is the middle of the Tommy Jarvis trilogy, and it's absolutely the weakest point in it. But it has enough upsides to where I'm still gonna give it a B tier. I'm still putting it above the original Friday the 13th, and I know that's gonna get me shit on, but you know, it's way more entertaining than the original Friday the 13th, for sure. The original Friday the 13th is goddamn boring. This movie is at least entertaining and funny at times, so like, I don't know, fucking deal with it. Make your own tier list if you disagree. Part 6, Jason Lives. This gives Part 4 the biggest competition for best movie, but it has more downsides than Part 4 did, so I can't quite give it the rank of my favorite movie. It's second though. Maybe third. We'll get to that. But we'll start with the negatives of this movie. This movie goes for a lot of humor, and it works a lot of the time. But sometimes it really doesn't work. Like the whole smiley face on the tree thing after a dude gets thrown into it. I don't think it really works in the movie. I think the fucking James Bond opening where he slashes at the screen, I don't think that's good at all. I think it's really cheesy and really stupid. Tommy Jarvis going to resurrect Jason in the first place is stupid. I know he didn't go there to resurrect Jason, but what the fuck did he go there for? He's like, I'm gonna make sure Jason is dead. And he opens up the coffin and a fucking maggot-filled corpse. And what does he do? He goes and takes a big metal rod and sticks it into Jason, and it gets struck by lightning and it resurrects him. What the fuck was the point of any of that? Why the fuck would Tommy Jarvis do that? It just makes no fucking sense. But it's still fun. I still enjoy that revival scene, the Jason revival scene, especially when he punches through dude's heart. I think it works. I think it's just a little bit of a stupid concept. But in reality, that's the only gripes I have against the movie, is its attempts at humor sometimes don't land, and some of the scenes don't make that much sense, but you know, it's a fucking Friday the 13th movie. I don't expect it to be logical and sound all the time. Let's get to the positives. A, this is Tommy Jarvis, back in his prime. I love it. It makes sense for the Part 4 Tommy Jarvis to be the Part 6 Tommy Jarvis. This is the best adult Tommy Jarvis that we have, absolutely. Its attempts at humor, like I said, do land a lot of the times. Like the misogynist in the beginning with the machete, like,
dumb broad. She should have stayed in the kitchen where she belongs.
that's pretty fucking funny, especially when he gets killed, until that damn smiley face thing. But you know, a lot of the jokes and stuff really do land in this movie, especially dialogue-wise, which is a lot better than basically any other Friday the 13th movie can say, because most of the time if I'm laughing at a Friday the 13th movie, the movie didn't want me to laugh at that point. It just was stupid. The movie's very self-aware too, and I can appreciate that, because it pokes fun at itself and it pokes fun at the previous movies, while still retaining enough of those cliches to make it a Friday the 13th movie. This movie is actually written like a movie though. I can really appreciate that. It's well written. It seems like you're watching a good, well-made movie. Unlike the ones before it that seem like cheap slasher movies, and unlike the ones after it that seem like supernatural weird movies. I don't know. This movie does dive into the supernatural a little bit with Zombie Jason, but that's as far as it goes. Everything else is still basically grounded in reality. Obviously, the return of Jason is a huge plus, especially Zombie Jason, because for the rest of the series, this man is fucking Zombie Jason, Immortal Jason, Big Boy Jason. And he does some fucking damage as a zombie, I'll tell you what. Not to mention, this Jason is front and center the whole movie. Every single movie before this kind of didn't show Jason all that much until near the end. This movie runs with Jason the entire time, and it's great seeing Jason throughout the whole movie. From what I've heard, this is also one of the friendliest sets that there was on one of these Friday the 13th movies. Most everybody involved with the movie loved working on this movie and had a great time filming it. Unlike, dude, did I even talk about that in Part 5? Part 5 was fucking awful. It's a big step up from Part 5. Some of the movie's stunts and scenes are fucking nuts. Like the RV flipping is fucking insane to watch. It's so crazy to see that in a Friday the 13th movie. A sudden extreme fucking action scene where an RV is doing a whole fucking flip. It's so fucking cool. And then of course the climax is nuts. Tommy Jarvis going out on a boat, surrounding himself with gasoline, lighting the water on fire, taunting Jason to come towards him, and pulling him under with a boulder and shredding his face with an engine. Oh, dude, what the fuck? It's the coolest climax out of any of these movies. Besides maybe Part 4, maybe. It's real tough. And the last thing I have to say about this movie is Sheriff Garris's death is fucking nuts. The first time I watched this as a kid, I watched Part 4 and then Part 6. So this is the second Friday the 13th movie I ever watched. None of the deaths up to this point really got to me or really surprised me, but I really liked Sheriff Garris as a kid, watching him throughout the whole movie. I don't know why. I was watching it with my dad, and it gets to the scene where he gets folded backwards in half, and I think me and my dad were both equally fucking scarred from that, because that is fucking nuts. It's so sudden, and it's a character that you wouldn't expect to get killed. And then all of a sudden, he's fucking folded in half. It's nuts. Jason Lives is the second S-tier movie that I have. Very good. Let's talk about Part 7, Jason versus Carrie. That's not what it's called. It's called The New Blood, but it's Jason versus Carrie. Carrie, in this case, being Tina Shepard. This is the first movie that we get Kane Hodder in. Kane Hodder is Jason. Kane Hodder is the best Jason. It's such a shame that he got the worst movies to be the best Jason in. Part 7 is a fun movie. Its concept being Carrie versus Jason is very good, and every scene that has to do with Tina versus Jason is awesome. Especially the end when Jason gets the absolute shit beat out of him. Falling through the stairs and having a whole fucking patio fall on top of him, and oh my god, he gets the shit beat out of him. He got lit on fire, and Kane Hodder did a 40-second fire stunt, which was a world record at the time. That shit's nuts. Imagine being on fire for 40 seconds. 40 seconds doesn't seem like that long until you're on fire for 40 seconds. This is my absolute favorite look for Jason. I love the mask because it shows all the damage that he's taken in the previous movies. It's got where the boat cut into his jaw right here, that's cut out. It's got the axe wound. And then of course it gets ripped apart near the end, but you know. I love his exposed spine. I love how fucking disgusting he looks. I love the chain around his neck. Oh, it's so damn cool. And of course this is the movie with the infamous sleeping bag kill, which is nuts to watch. Especially knowing that originally the MPAA had a lot to do with cutting this movie's gore down, unfortunately. But with this kill, it actually kind of worked out for the better, because originally he took the chick in the sleeping bag and slammed her against the tree a good number of times, and that killed her. But in the final cut, he picks that sleeping bag up, he whacks it against that tree one solid time, and she falls out fucking dead. It's... And then continuing on with the amazing fucking stunts, we got the fucking house exploding, which is insane. Oh my god, look at this house exploding. Now with all that, you would think, damn, this has got to be one of the best fucking Friday the 13th movies there is. Well, I haven't talked about the teen characters. Mostly because I don't fucking remember them. I just watched this movie. I've got no fucking clue what any of their names were. The only reason I remember they exist is because the sleeping bag kill exists. They could cut out every single one of these teens, including the sleeping bag kill, and I think this movie would have been better. With just Jason versus Tina, I would watch that. I'm not saying all the other kills are bad or anything like that. This movie still does have some good kills, but the characters are just so fucking forgettable. Also, a lot of this movie is just running through the woods, and I can get behind that to an extent. I like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I get tired of it after like the 4th or 5th running through the woods sequence. And the last thing I don't like about this movie is the way that Dr. Cruz dies, because he's a piece of shit in this movie, and he deserved a brutal fucking death, especially after killing Tina's mom. But instead, he gets one of the tamest deaths to watch, period. Jason comes up to him with the motorized little, it's like a weed whacker, but with a blade. And he goes up to him and he starts cutting him, and that's about it. The original version, before the MPAA, obviously had him being like torn apart, his insides falling out, but that's not what we get shown in the end, so I can't say it was a good death, because you don't see 90% of it, and this is a fucking despicable character that you want to see die, and you don't get to see much. It kind of sucks. Overall, this movie's alright. I'd put it in B tier. If it had better teen characters that are getting killed, it probably would have worked its way up to A, because it's a pretty good movie, but the other characters just fucking suck. So it's hard to put it above Part 5, which has the opposite problem. It has like a sucky Jason, which isn't Jason. It has great characters. This one has a great Jason and sucky characters. I feel like these two are supposed to be at B tier together. Fuck, alright, that means we're on to Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan.
Welcome to New York.
I'm not a fan of this movie. I think this movie could have been good. It's a good concept. I would love to see Jason in New York for more than 5 seconds. But Jason spends a lot of the time on a boat, killing people on a boat on the way to New York, instead of killing people in New York and taking over New York, which was supposed to be the point of the movie. And the couple of shots in New York where Jason is in New York are fucking cool. Best parts of the movie. Kane Hodder is still Jason, which is awesome. And there's a couple good deaths in this movie, like Julius's death, where he gets his head punched off, which I actually used for the intro of this video, and the sauna death, where he puts the hot sauna rock through the guy's chest, which doesn't get enough love. As a kid, that kill really was really cool to me, but I never hear anybody talk about it, and when I do, they talk shit about it. It's like, yeah, there's a couple of mistakes, but that's a fucking cool death. That's a cool way to kill somebody, especially for Jason to kill somebody. Now the problem with this movie is there wasn't a big enough budget for them to do everything they wanted to in New York, so this movie suffered a lot. One of the ways it suffered is it is slow as shit. This movie is just as slow, if not slower, than Friday the 13th Part 1. Not a good thing. The whole little boy Jason popping up throughout the movie, looking different every time. Oh my god, that's the stupidest shit I've ever seen, and I hate it so much. He looks so fucking bad, and there's no point, especially in the end, when, little boy Jason pisses me off. It's stupid that they had him in the movie. All the kills, while cut down by the MPAA, they knew they were going to get cut down, so they didn't film good kills in the first place. Most of the kills are just sucky kills so they wouldn't get cut down by the MPAA. Instead of going for broke with the best kills they could and cutting down what they had to, they just gave in and they're like, fuck it, we'll just do shitty kills. Most of these characters are stupid and forgettable other than Julius. This is the movie where Jason for sure teleports everywhere. It's fucking stupid. And to end this part off, the whole sewer scene is fucking terrible. The entire ending of the movie is just fucking terrible. I hate this movie. This movie is D tier. Don't watch it. I say that, but there's a couple good scenes. And this isn't the worst movie. But still, don't watch it. It's not good. Friday the 13th Part 9 fucking sucks. Friday the 13th Part 9 is fucking awful. I don't even want to talk about it. Jason is basically a slug that possesses people. And while some of the gore is good, it's a fucking shitty movie, and I'm not going to talk about it. D. Shit. F tier. F tier. I wasn't even going to give it F tier. This movie gets F tier. Fuck this movie. The few redeeming qualities that it has are drowned out by the sheer amount of shit poured into this movie. Do not fucking watch this movie. The only credit I can give is it's got Kane Hodder as Jason, but it really doesn't, because Jason isn't in this fucking movie for 90% of the time. Fuck this shitty movie. Jason X. I actually kind of like this movie. Also, the reason I don't have a regular Jason mask is because I couldn't find mine, and I couldn't find one at Halloween stores. But I did find this, which I think in a way is kind of cooler because it's rarer. I don't think you could find this in many places. Goddamn Uber Jason. Now, with this movie, it's weird. Most of the flaws that this movie has are also pros in some way. Jason in space is a con. It's like, you don't want Jason in space. That's fucking weird. At the same time, Jason in space is a cool concept, and it's fun to watch. It's got a lot of strange and clunky sounding dialogue that doesn't really work too well, but it is really funny.
Guys, it's okay. He just wanted his machete back.
So, I mean, there's that. Plus, this movie's quite funny. It's got a good sense of humor. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's very stupid, but it's very funny and very entertaining for sure. This is one of the more entertaining Friday the 13th movies because you really can't predict this movie if you haven't seen it. It goes in so many different directions. This movie is extremely self-aware with what it is, and it doesn't try to take itself too seriously, and I love that about it. It has some of the stupidest fucking jokes, like the "he screwed" thing, and when Brodsky gets stabbed and he's like, it's gonna take more than that to take down this old dog, and then he gets stabbed again, he's like, yep, that ought to do it. I love that scene. It's funny. One of the only parts I don't like about this movie is when they've all got the guns and they're hunting Jason down and Jason's taking them out one by one. That's kind of boring. It doesn't really matter all that much though. It's a small scene and it still does give way to the "he's screwed" death and line, which is great. It's not the best looking movie, but you know, it's a movie made in 2001 about space and future technology. The 2000s weren't known for their CGI and their good looks. Well, they were known for their CGI, but they weren't known for good CGI. But in this movie, you do get some good looking things, like the liquid nitrogen kill is fucking awesome and looks great with her skull fucking exploding when it hits the table. You get the really cool visual of the Solaris like base being destroyed, being like run through by the ship. That looks so cool, and most of it was done practically, so it does look pretty good. You do also get the hilarious virtual Camp Crystal Lake where he does the sleeping bag against the sleep. I don't know. I love this movie. It's stupid, but it's entertaining, which is more than a lot of the other movies can say. So I'm putting this movie at A tier. That may piss people off, but it's a fun movie, man. Oh, and I forgot to mention, of course, Kane Hodder. Fucking, what else do I have to say? It's Kane Hodder. He's great. Dude, I didn't even talk about fucking Uber Jason. Uber Jason's awesome. He looks stupid, but it matches space Jason. I don't know, it's great. The movie's great. It's A tier. I'm gonna move on now. I'm sorry I'm kind of rushing through this, but I don't want this video to be half an hour or more. I want it to be pretty short. If you want to spend a lot of time learning about the Friday the 13th series, go watch all the Dead Meat videos. He literally just remade all of his videos on every Friday the 13th movie, and they're super informative and super fun to watch. Go watch them. After that, we got Freddy vs. Jason. A fucking showdown of the century. Goddamn, Freddy vs. Jason was my shit as a kid. But we're gonna talk about the negatives first. First off, we don't get Kane Hodder back for this, even though he pushed for this movie. It's so sad that Kane Hodder didn't get to play Jason in Freddy vs. Jason. It's fucked up, man. The CGI in this movie is god-awful. It's fucking dog shit. Jason's pretty ugly in this movie, if we're being honest, and it's not because he's not Kane Hodder, it's because he looks like a Halloween costume more than he looks like Jason. And I'm not sure if that's just because I went as this version of Jason for Halloween when I was a kid, but whenever I see this Jason, it literally just looks like a Halloween costume to me more than it looks like Jason Voorhees. But I think by the end of the movie, he looks fucked up enough to where it works. It works to an extent. I'm not saying that he looks terrible, but he doesn't quite look like the Jason we've come to know and love by now. I'm still upset that it's not Kane Hodder playing him, but that's not the reason I say he's ugly, I promise. The dude who plays him in this movie is actually the guy that Kane Hodder tossed into a mirror in Jason Takes Manhattan. Big fucking dude, and I think he did great as Jason in this movie. I'm still just sad that it's not Kane Hodder. I do have to talk about how Freddy is afraid of fire, which kind of makes sense, considering that he was burned alive, but you know, not really, considering Freddy Krueger. I don't know, it's never been a thing before. And of course, Jason being afraid of water. What the fuck? How the fuck can you make Jason afraid of water? I understand he drowned, but like, he swam so much in this series. Remember when he took Manhattan when the boat sank and he had to swim from the sinking boat all the way to New York? He didn't seem to have a problem there. He didn't turn into a fucking baby again, which by the way, yes, he turns into goddamn kid Jason again. Why would they bring that back from Jason Takes Manhattan? It's fucking stupid. I gotta say, the weird Freddy pillar thing is a plus and a minus in this movie, because it's really funny watching Freddy Pillar smoke it up with dude, but at the same time, the Freddy Pillar looks bad and it doesn't make any sense. And then we're back to part 9. It's just giving me flashbacks of part 9. I fucking But now we're to the positives. Let's just talk about this. It's fucking Freddy versus Jason. I can't believe that this movie happened. It's so cool to see Freddy and Jason fight it out. Every single fight between Freddy and Jason is fucking awesome. When they're in Freddy's dream world and fighting, that's great for Freddy fans. The gore in between them fighting, like near the end especially, when the fucking knife gloves go into Jason's face and he rips Freddy's arm off and shoves his finger blades through his back, and oh dude, it's so fucking brutal, but it's awesome. Robert Englund actually did come back as Freddy, thank God. Oh my God, if we didn't, the movie would have been ruined without him. We already didn't have Kane Hodder. Imagine if we got 2 completely new actors to play 2 well-known horror movie villains. Ugh. The plot actually makes sense. Freddy's not being remembered by anybody, so he resurrects Jason to go kill people and eventually make his name known to where he can start killing people. And then Jason goes off the leash and they start fighting because Jason is stealing Freddy's kills. He's a kill thief. He's a kill stealer. I wouldn't want to play zombies with Jason. The makeup for Freddy in this movie looks great, especially the fucking demon makeup in that one dream scene where he jumps up onto the dock and he looks fucking nuts. I love that look for him. The folding bed kill in the beginning is one of the only kills that doesn't use a lot of CG, where the douchey, I think his name's Trent dude, gets stabbed like 10 times in the back with the machete. That part's brutal enough. It's insane watching that. And then he fucking folds the bed. Oh, dude, it's sick. I really like the characters in this movie. Even though they're really shitty 2000s characters, I love them. You got all the Friday the 13th type characters, like those characters are great for fans of Friday, and then you got the Nightmare on Elm Street type characters, where they come from that like mental ward or whatever it is in the beginning. The combination of both of those types of characters really actually works for me. I also want to point out that Linderman in this movie is in one of my favorite movies ever, called Just Friends with Ryan Reynolds. He plays Ryan Reynolds' little brother in that movie. Holy shit, I love that movie. And seeing him in this, he basically plays the same character if that character was in this movie. And the last thing I want to talk about is the very end scene, where Jason walks out of the water with Freddy Krueger's head in his hand and Freddy Krueger winks at the screen. I think that's the perfect way to end this movie. I still can't believe that this movie was made, and I'm so glad that it was. It's a great movie. This one is easily an A tier for me. Easily. The only thing that keeps it from being an S tier is the time it was made, you know? And the fact that Kane Hodder's not fucking Jason. All right, last movie on our list though, the 2009 remake of Friday the 13th. We'll talk about the negatives first because there's not that many. A lot of the characters are kind of just stereotypes of the Friday the 13th characters that we know nowadays, which works. It's a Friday the 13th movie, but some of the characters come off a little boring or not memorable, you know? Donnie the dummy fucker, I can't. Donnie, the guy who fucks mannequins, that whole scene kind of sucks. And it sucks that that's the scene that Jason finds his mask in, because I really don't like that scene. It really is not fun to watch. I don't think it's funny that this dude fucks mannequins. I don't think it makes sense. I don't like it. And this movie easily has like the worst sex scenes in any of these movies. I know I said part 5 has the most tits and is very sleazy and gross, but this movie has one sex scene in particular that I can never get over. Just the dialogue and how really pornographic it seems. I'll never get over the fact that he says that your tits are stupendous. There's one more negative, but I'll save it for the end. Let's get to some of the positives. Jared Padalecki as Clay from Supernatural. Holy shit, what a fucking great casting choice. He absolutely makes this movie for me. I fucking love seeing him in this movie. Jason in this movie is a survivalist. He's fucking terrifying. He sprints. He doesn't run like he did in 2 through 4, where he gets that little brisk jog going after people. This man is fucking sprinting, and he is terrifying. This is easily the scariest Jason that there is, because he's the most grounded in reality. Him being able to be at one part of the camp at one point and then be at another part at another point, they explain by showing that he has an underground tunnel system with bells showing that if people trip, he knows exactly where they are. This man knows what he's doing. He's smart and he's a fucking killing machine. This is the scariest Jason has ever been. The fact that this movie takes place across, it basically tells the story of the first 4 movies. Kind of. Like, it's a remake of the first 4 movies kind of combined. It shows the very end of part 1 where Pamela Voorhees gets her head cut off, and then it implements parts from 2, 3, and 4 all throughout the movie. I mean, when you first see Jason, he's Sackhead Jason from part 2, and then he finds his mask, and there's parts from 2, 3, and 4 that are all implemented in this, and it works out great. The entire intro of this movie, which it's so long, it almost doesn't even feel like just a cold open. You start with these group of characters going out to find some weed, and then Jason starts fucking killing them with his sack head, and it's fucking terrifying. He hangs a girl upside down over a fire in her sleeping bag and lets her burn to death while her boyfriend is caught in a bear trap which ripped his fucking flesh off his leg. The way that he runs at the dude and fucking slices into his head in the scene right after that, oh my fucking god. The actual genuine pants shitting fear that is shown from the characters having to deal with Jason feels so authentic in this movie.
What the fuck? What is this? No! No!
The gore in this movie, like I said, dude's fucking foot was ripped to shreds from that bear trap, and that's just the tip of the gore in this movie, dude. This movie is a little bit booby, but it's also got a lot of gore in it, which is fucking crazy looking. I love the 2009 feel of this movie. Like, I don't know why, but it kind of feels like a Supernatural episode. But instead of a supernatural creature, it's fucking Jason Voorhees. While some of the characters are boring and forgettable, there's characters like Lawrence and Chewie that make the movie fun and make some of the characters memorable. Those guys are funny and their deaths are nuts. I kind of forget which one's which, but I think Chewie is the Asian dude who gets screwdriver shoved through his throat super slow and super gory. And then I think Lawrence is the guy that gets a fucking axe chucked into his back and gets used as bait to try to bait the other kids out of the cabin. Dude, Jason's so fucking smart in this movie, it's terrifying.
Hey, he's using your friend as bait. He wants us to go out there.
Well, you don't know that.
I also want to talk about Nolan's death. While Nolan is kind of a dick of a character and, you know, not fun to watch, it's so sudden, his death, because he's just driving the boat, having a good time, and then just fucking caught me off guard the first time I saw it. I'll tell you what. Another death that I really like is that cop's death where he gets stabbed in the back. Or I'm not sure if it's in the back of the head, but he gets stabbed with the fire poker, and the fire poker goes through the door and the camera follows it from outside to inside. Dude, that is one of the coolest fucking shots in any Friday the 13th movie. It's so fucking cool. It's one of the most creative shots for sure. I don't know any other shot that is more creative than that one in the entire series. Anyway, the only other complaint I have about this movie is at the end, the whole wood chipper scene is awesome. That fight is awesome. I wish they would have just shredded Jason's head with that thing, dude. I really wanted to see that thing go to town. This is S tier, absolutely. And it even goes above Jason Lives in my book. Jason Lives is a little bit too goofy for me. I still love it. It's still S tier, obviously, but I like 4 and I like this remake because they're both scary. They're the scariest of the series, and that's why I like them. That's why I watch these movies, because they're supposed to be horror movies. They're supposed to be scary, and these two do the best job at being scary. All right, and that concludes our list. I'm just fucking kidding. We got more. We're also gonna be talking about the game. Friday the 13th, the game, was fucking amazing. It's one of the best experiences I've ever had playing a video game. Like, it's the only multiplayer horror video game that I think does it well enough, you know? Dead by Daylight kind of fucking sucks in my opinion. I understand why people have fun playing it, but it's literally you just turn on generators and escape. With Friday the 13th, there's so many ways that you could try to survive, or you could play as Jason. Playing as Jason, you get all the different Jasons. Well, not all of them, I'll get to that. But you get all the ones that were available, and that's awesome. They all look great. All the camp counselors look great. And you have certain little abilities, and you have to go search for parts for certain things. There's multiple ways you could escape. You could repair the phone, and you could call the cops, or you could repair one of the 2 cars, whether it be 4-door or 2-door, and escape. You can leave your friends behind. You can run your friends over in a vehicle as you're leaving, because fuck them. Or you could pick up as many people as possible and take them with you on your way out. Or you could try to repair the boat, get you and one other person out that way, but Jason can go underwater and flip your boat still. Jason can also stop the car if he stands in front of it. And then you could also kill Jason as a way to survive. If Jason dies, obviously everybody still left living stays living. You could also play as Tommy Jarvis if you called him instead of the police. One person who's already dead comes back as Tommy Jarvis. Tommy Jarvis spawns in with his shotgun and I think a blade and something else. Such a fucking cool game. I'm so sad that the lawsuit shut the game's updates down, man. It makes me so sad because it's one of the best experiences I've ever had playing video games. I mean, they shut the servers down recently. You can only play peer-to-peer now. Now the lawsuit is coming to a little bit of a close, hopefully. It's working its way down. I think even when the lawsuit's over, I don't think this game is ever gonna get another update, which it's fucking depressing, man. I was so excited for Uber Jason and the Grindel spaceship map. This game had so much potential. It had just started, man. It really had just started when it got shut down. If this game got to live its lifespan properly, it would have been S tier for sure. But because it didn't get to, because half of the content that would have been put in the game had to be stopped from being made, they had to completely stop production or any updates, it's an A tier. A tier, it's great. It's a fucking great game and I still play it. But the fact that it's missing all this content and it will never get that, I can't put it in S tier because I know what it could have been. What it could have been was S tier, but that's just not a possibility now. Unfortunately. We got 2 more things to talk about here. We got Never Hike Alone, which came out in 2017. It's a fan film. It's one of the most unique takes on Jason that I've ever seen. I absolutely love watching Never Hike Alone. It's super fucking scary. It really works on the scare factor. It's very suspenseful. It takes its time. It's an hour long, but it takes its fucking time to deliver these scary moments. I love how at the beginning it starts off with you got this really talkative YouTuber, hiker, explorer guy, and he doesn't say another word for the entire second half of it. I love that transition between this super talkative guy to he's in this fucking survival situation and just does not have time to talk. It's so cool. And I can't believe that it's a fan film. You know what? Cut all of that out. Cut any of the spoilers out. Cut it all out. Because you know what? This is an S tier. This is an S tier fucking thing. If you haven't seen this, which I bet you haven't, go watch it. It's 100% worth it. It's free on YouTube. It's so good. While we're talking about that, there's Never Hike in the Snow, which I don't think is as good. If you kind of combine them together, they make a feature-length film, and together it's one big cool Jason story. but that's not how I'm considering it because that's not how it was put out. Never Hike in the Snow is like a 30-minute prequel to Never Hike Alone. It doesn't really have anything to do with Never Hike Alone other than the fact that Tommy Jarvis is there, but you also got the cop that goes ya bang in part 6, which is cool. Deputy Cologne, I think his name was. Megan! And you don't get to see Jason in the snow ever until this, so it's cool to see that. But this one, while cool, it's 30 minutes, it's too short for my liking. It doesn't focus on Jason enough. The opening is awesome, and if the entire thing was like the opening, I would love this. But in reality, it's a lot of fan service, and I'm not a big fan of this one. It's good, but you know, it's nowhere near as good as Never Hike Alone. So I'd have to put this at C tier right next to the original Friday the 13th. Obviously for different reasons than I put the original Friday the 13th at C tier, but that's my list. I think I covered everything that I've ever seen Jason-wise. I really hope you enjoyed this. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe and all that, please. This video has stressed me the fuck out. I want to talk about more horror movies. In fact, I was going to make a Saw tier list that would come out today as well, but I just did not have time. That will eventually come out, but I might save it for a later date, because I did just talk about Spiral, and I'm gonna let that sink in a little bit more before I actually make a tier list on it, because I feel like I'm being a little unfair with the Saw series right now, because I'm a little bit angry. If you want to know more about that, you know where to look. And a little card up there, man. Anyway, one more time, happy Halloween. Thank you for joining me for this tier list. If you disagreed, make sure to let me know in the comments which placements you disagreed with and why, because I'd love to hear your opinion. And until I see you next time, peace.
Ch-ch.